this sense of anger. So we try to explain to people that perpetuating this to someone else, it doesn't help the situation. It just keeps the ball rolling. But aside from that, we try to offer individuals that we target as high risk individuals. We try to offer them services that would take them away from living this high risk lifestyle. We try to offer them job opportunities. We try to offer them educational opportunities. She's telling me to stop.
Up here, please.
Yes.
Can we ask one question from Zoom? How many violence interrupters are needed in Carbondale? Are donations to the program needed? Any assessment of how the program has worked so far?
At this point, we only have 2 violence interrupters. That's myself and Van Eichner. And yes, we do need volunteers. We need volunteers for clerical work. We need volunteers who come in and help us develop programming for our high risk individuals. And we do need donations. Donations is a big thing that would help us to be able to reach the target people that we need to reach. As I say, this is not a single community-based organization issue. This is a larger Carbondale community issue. So if we don't start pooling in the resources of people, finances, then we will continue to be in this situation. We need
Question
people.
up here, if I may interrupt. At the recent hearing of the Arbor District over at the Catholic Church, Joe Cervantes, the local attorney here, who prosecutes cases like these, pointed out that most were young men. What is the difference between non-resident young men committing these acts versus residents? Thank you.
I think there are
I'd
some
like to add
statistics
with
on
that. I'd like to add with that. That wasn't just young men. That was young Black men.
Of course. We look at these cases and we identify the young Black men. It's not a race issue. It's not even really an age issue, although we are seeing that some of these crimes are being perpetrated by people of a certain age demographic of 6. Well, Joe Cervantes said, I think his youngest one was 15 to 24 to 26. It's a mindset thing. So it's not just a age thing. It's not a race thing. It's the mindsets that we have to treat in order to get better behaviors from people.
Statistics available on whether the shooters are from Carbondale or not, so there are some statistics available. Some of that I think is in the report that SIU put out. And actually also the police department is I think upgrading their methods for their database so that kind of thing will be easier to track as well. And one more thing about the other methods, Darlene York Anderson also has a grant to do restorative practice in the community to help people to resolve conflicts, in answer to your question, another aspect of that as well.
One of the things that we have to teach our youth and people of our age is conflict resolution. We have a population of people who don't know how to resolve their conflicts without resorting to violence. So as I say, as we give people new information, we hope that their behaviors will change because based on the new information that we give them.
Thank you. Mike, I'm so happy that you mentioned about conflict resolution. My background is in speech communications, public relations, and conflict resolution is the most difficult thing to affect is change. And so if you can de-escalate or find a way to deal with situations, I want to say also, Mike probably doesn't remember me, but I remember when he was like 6, 7 years old. And so when I'm looking through his beard, I still see a 6-year-old kid. And thank you so much, Mike. Okay, where we at now? Who's next? The Arbor District. The last meeting we had, not the last, the meeting before that, with the Neighborhood Alliance and the study circles, the conversation came up about Elm Street in the Arbor District and how all of that. But when you look at the Arbor District is a microcosm of the city of Carbondale. So, Kyle?
Thank you much. And I'll be short today. I came in late. I got a little bit of a back injury, so I'll be pretty quick today, just giving a little report of the Arbor District. I don't have slides for it either. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the Arbor District, as a organization, we're a neighborhood association. Our goal is twofold. First, preserve some of the historic homes within the Carbondale city limits that fall within the Arbor District. Not close enough is what I'm being told. There we go. So yeah, to preserve some of the historic homes that are in the district and restore those when they are needed, but also just to create a better sense of community for those who are living within the district as well. And that can come from a wide range of issues that come up. But I do just want to reflect on the past year of the Arbor District and some exciting things that did happen. One of the biggest things that we saw was the ARPA funding that our board wrote in conjunction with the Bucky Dome board to tear down an old house there on Forest and Cherry at the corner to start the Bucky Dome Visitors Center and Arbor District meeting area. So that was a really exciting thing to be able to do with another organization, and then be able to do a large celebration, almost block party style afterwards, to celebrate the demolition of that property. So if you do drive by right across from the Bucky Dome, you'll see an empty lot with gravel parking, and that is where the future visitor center will be going, and we'll be hopefully working towards that more this year with them. We've also this past year been able to celebrate, and I won't talk too much about it because I think John might be after me. We were able to see the expanded TIF in our neighborhood as well, which we personally want to thank Steve Mitchell, Cody Luker, and those at the city and on the council that made sure that happened. When we talk about preserving historic homes or even just homes in the area, that TIF expansion, we believe, is one tool of many that are going to help achieve that goal to improve quality of life, not only for our members, but for the city as a whole, as there was multiple expansions. And with that, the extended housing programs as well, which I myself was very grateful to be able to take advantage of that last year through the single family conversion home grant. So when we talk about restoring neighborhoods, we want to make sure that those living within the Arbor District know about these tools that are available, that know, hey, you just moved here. Let's get you hooked up with the city to see what is available if you're doing something that's TIF eligible to get that under their contract or applying for one of those city projects. We also did, though, on a less exciting note, see continued gun violence and vandalism and other crimes in our neighborhood, even vandalism as recent as this week. I know one of our neighbors had a car window smashed. So we have been dealing with that. And I want to thank everybody that did come to the meeting last month for that. And as we continue to work towards a safer neighborhood for all of Carbondale. The last bit here is I want to talk about some things that the Arbor District is doing in this upcoming year. One of the biggest changes that we have made was the establishment of a working group or multiple working groups to address different issues that are important to our membership. So one of the working groups that we have is going to be transportation and zoning issues to figure out what can we do to make our community more walkable, to be safer when you do go out there, and to honestly make sure that it looks nice when we're walking around. I think I've mentioned this before, but dodging glass when you're walking dogs has been a problem for everybody. So how do we do things? And maybe that's not zoning, right? That's community building, volunteering, taking care of things. But what do we see? Places without sidewalks that are close to the towers where large number of residents with wheelchairs live. So how can we improve our neighborhood to make it safer for everybody there? Also working on how we can continue welcoming refugees into the neighborhood and the community, whether that's refugees from war areas or climate refugees that we may be seeing over the next few decades. Another committee is going to be looking at renewable energy. How can we make our community more renewable and less energy dependent on the current electrical grid, if I can talk? And the last one that's seen a lot of movement already is our social events committee or working group led by Judy Ashby. Good example of this was in December. She and some other residents hosted a tree making event where neighbors could come, bring a tomato cage, bring some string lights, and make these green trees that we popped up all over the neighborhood that you would see in different areas. So we hope to continue that with tomorrow's event of making Valentine heart decorations for outdoors. And then we'll be bringing back our St. Patrick's Day party in March as well. So one of the things that we see as a neighborhood association is building community any way we can. So if it is social events like a St. Patrick's Day party, we get to know our neighbors, or our annual holiday party. So we want to make sure that we continue events like that to build community. And I'm always looking to hear from people who may not be represented on our board. And so if you are someone or you know someone who maybe like rents in the Arbor District, we don't have a lot of renters participating in the membership. I would like to get their perspective as well in our membership as to help us make it more inclusive. Because I know myself, I was a renter for 4 years, 5 years here in Carbondale before I could buy a home. But I was able to participate in the Arbor District, and that made me want to stay here in Carbondale and make sure I sought employment here and buying a house as well. So overall, the Arbor District has seen a number of positive changes, and we've also seen some less favorable outcomes as well. But I'm excited, along with other board members, for what may be coming with the election of 2 new board members this year, as we said goodbye to Peg and Dee, who ended their terms this year. So I'm excited to have new board members, get some fresh perspective. And like I said, we would love to be able to get more people who are renting involved in the membership, whether that be through Section 8 programs or they're renting on their own, because we want to, again, make sure we're representative of the people we say we represent. So on that, like I said, I'm going to be short for you all today. Any questions? Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I attended the last Ann Arbor District meeting 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And a report was given was 140 shooting incidents in a 1 year period over there. Has there been many shooting incidents since the last meeting?
To my knowledge, I have not been aware of any. If there have been, they've not been ones that I've been alerted to. I do want to say, though, that since a week or so before that meeting, we did have increased patrolling in the neighborhood, especially near the troubled area. And we've continued to see an increased police presence that has helped deter, I believe, a lot of the gun violence that was occurring at that one location.
Okay, they was complaining about a drug house. Street term is crack house. And they reported they gonna move the people. I passed by there several times since that meeting. You see police parked there in the morning, daytime and nighttime at that house. Is it still occupied or what?
At this time, I don't know. I know that there is a process that they have to go through. So I'm sure there's some time commitments with that of how quickly people would be asked to leave. But I do want to say, though, as well, that although this is one like temporary solution for gun violence, right, is to enact the nuisance law, and we do need to do it sometimes, it's not sustainable because it's really going to transfer it to another community or another neighborhood. So continuing to find ways that we can help those who maybe are involved already would be a favorable outcome here.
Particular area or just an overall organization?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So our membership boundaries as we have them right now are from our eastern boundary of Illinois to our western boundary of Oakland, and then from Main Street to Mill. So that's kind of the Arbor District here, butting right up against the business district. However, there are some slight differences. So for example, the expanded TIF doesn't cover all of the section that we cover as well, but we'll still include that in our membership for people to join.
Okay. For me, it's no brainer. If there's more guns around, there will be more shooting. My question is, how can you get a sticker to go to my house that with, like they have at the courthouse, at the civic center, no guns. The library need one. Each store in town need one. So I like to get one at my house. So.
Yeah. So you just want like a no gun sign? Yeah, I'm sure like probably like Lowe's or Ace has that in their sign section. I don't actually know where to get those.
And buy them.
Can ya?
You know what, reach out to me. I can figure out where we got ours. But the library, all municipal buildings are by law in Illinois gun free. So we do have the signs. Yes, we have the signs on the door, but we probably have a lot of other clutter on the door too. So, but yeah, you can't have a gun in here or in the city hall, for example, but you can definitely buy those, and I'll look into that for you. Okay. Reach out to me. Okay. Yale. Thanks.
Yeah, actually, Michael just pointed out one right behind you on the window.
I feel like I don't mind if every stop sign in town will have the sign.
That's my neighbor, Yule Bag. That's ours, mother. Look, thank you, Kyle. Kyle, I have a question for you. I guess it could be rhetorical, but it's not really rhetorical. I live in the Oakland Heights section. My friend Yule also lives in, and you mentioned like Friends of Arbor District. And when we began this, it was all about neighborhoods, and you have one of the nicest, structurally put together neighborhood organizations that we have in town. How can I join as a friend of the Arbor District?
That's a good question that I actually haven't been asked before. I know. So yeah, and so like again, our northern boundary is Walnut or Main Street, sorry. But no, Sandy, I think Sandy's about to jump in over here.
Well, I love Sandy's parties.
Historically, anyone can join it. It's $10. $10. Right.
$10. Anyone can join.
Okay, I got $10.
Well, Farrell, you want to wait for a mic?
Just to sort of make a comment along those lines, we are very supportive of other neighborhoods forming their own associations, and there are those of us on the board who would be helpful if anyone in other neighborhoods was interested in forming their own neighborhood associations. Not that we'd turn away your $10 if you wanted to join us too.
And if the cost is prohibitive to anybody, please still join for everything. We don't want to make cost, keeping anybody out of social or community activities as well.
Kyle, your email address is listed there. Is that how people would reach out to join?
Yes. And just a heads up, I probably check my email like once a week for this one because I get enough work ones all the time. So this one is about once a week. I'll check. So just a heads up, there may be a delay in responding.
Okay. Hey, Sandy, and I promise to bring a large pumpkin pie to the party. Where we're at in the program here. Giddy up. No comment.
No, I don't have a slideshow. Like Kareem, I am also a graduate of Brush School here. Remember the gravel parking lot or the gravel playground? I mean, it was tough back then because you only had a gravel playground. So it was pretty neat. I was actually here at the dedication of this building, as telling one of Suzanne's or Diana Brawley Sussman's assistants in like 83 or 84. So this feels like home. And when they talk about the Arbor District, I actually grew up in the Arbor District on South James Street. And so why is that germane to housing and community development? Well, back then, our parents didn't drive us to school. We walked everywhere, including walking from South James Street to Brush School and the middle school, which was Lincoln Middle School at the time, Lincoln Junior High School, they called it. We were such terrible kids that nobody would, bother us and stuff because we were, too rowdy. And the observation I have from that is that when you walk through the neighborhoods back then, and we're talking about the 60s and 70s, I know I only look like I'm 30, but I'm not. Okay. But back then, and I know this sounds like, the guy talking about walking uphill to school both ways in the snow, carrying 2 hot baked potatoes in his pockets to keep warm and all that. But back then, there was a lot more owner occupied housing in Carbondale. Okay. So when you walk down, for instance, I'm going to use West College Street, for example. I cut through the backyard of the Stokeses and Doc Wooliford, to get through to Forest Street and then walk West College all the way to Lincoln Middle School. Back then, you probably had about 50% of the houses were owner occupied. About 50% were rental. You've always had a lot of rental properties in Carbondale, College Town, right? You know, steadily in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the university kept growing. People kept, you know, rental property got to be kind of a cottage industry for some people. And then you had some big landlords too that were able to pay more money for a lot of properties than what, you know, a first-time home buyer or another person, you know, could pay. So little by little, now if you go down West College Street, I'd be hard pressed to find one single owner occupied property. So when we talk about housing in Carbondale, it's a twofold thing. It's a neighborhood improvement tool, because to have owner occupied housing, you know, responsible owners there mowing their lawn, painting their house, planting flowers, that is, you know, a neighborhood and a community-wide improvement thing. So when we're talking about gun violence and all sorts of other things, you know, we feel that that is another tool in a toolbox to help prevent that kind of thing. Okay. On the other side of the coin, obviously, or the other prong, is the fact that people want to have homes. Okay. Home ownership in the United States has always been that path to wealth, right? So people that have a home that they can get into, they can build that equity, that is a real wealth building thing for them. So over here on this table here, we have quite a few brochures of what we call our in-house home grant programs, okay? So these are three things, and this is an unbelievably easy program to qualify for, okay? And the paperwork end of it is not tough. For one thing, the applications are online. I also have a stack of my business cards there, by the way, okay? And phone numbers there, that is my direct line, and that is my email. I'm so, I don't know how to put that correctly. Anyway, my cell phone number is actually on my card. I do take text, okay? So if you have any, you know, questions about this or anything, community development, zoning, building, code enforcement, please call me, text me, email me, whatever. Bang on my office door. But this program is very, very easy to qualify for because two things. First of all, I'm gonna go through the programs one by one. The rental conversion grant, which Kyle mentioned, and thank you. Your 6-pack of beer, Kyle, is coming to you that I promised you for plugging the programs. Okay. That is the $5,000 for rental conversion grant. Basically, you take a existing rental home that has to have been rented for 2 years. We have good records of when houses were rented because you have to register rental properties in Carbondale. So there's very little gray area on that. You move into the house, you sign an agreement that says you're going to live there 5 years. We give you $5,000. Okay. You can make all the money in the world and qualify for that program. It is not an income-based program. Okay. Again, we're trying to reverse some of that process of having so many rental homes in Carbondale, more owner-occupied homes. I think for obvious reasons, right? People who own their homes take a little better care, pay a little bit more attention or a lot more attention to what's going on in their neighborhoods. So it really is a neighborhood strengthening tool. Then we have what's called the Curb Appeal Assistance Program. Okay. Curb Appeal Assistance Program will match up to $3,000 for the money the homeowner puts into their home. They have to live there 5 years after, just like with the rental conversion program. And you can make up to 180% of median Carbondale income to qualify for that program. Now that sounds really high, but if you ever look and you know, I like to Google stuff, get on Wikipedia and look at different communities and what they make. Your median income for Carbondale is traditionally very low because of young population, student population. So the first couple of years that this program was actually in place, it was only at 80% of median income. And we just weren't getting enough applicants. Okay. We wanted the program to grow. We thought it was a great program. So several years ago, went back and raised the income level to 180%. Okay. And when you go online and you look at this brochure as well, you'll find the income guidelines on the application online. So the Curb Appeal Assistance Grant is basically anything we can see from the outside of the house. And people say, well, can I build a deck? If I can see it in the street without walking in your yard, you can build a deck. You can roof your house. You can pave your driveway. You can put in new windows. You can side your house, paint your house. Okay. You pre-qualify with us. You do the work, bring in your receipts, we give you your match. Really easy. The third program we have in this brochure here is the down payment assistance program. Also $3,000 match. Also 180% of median income allowed. You find a house, you get a bank loan, or even if you pay cash, we will match you up to $3,000. Okay, so we're really proud of this program. So I brought some numbers. So last year in this program, what as bureaucrats call a fiscal year, in case you didn't know, in Carbondale, the fiscal year is May 1 to May 1. Okay, I know you're all dying to get that information. Fiscal year of 22, we did 20 grants across those three programs. We did 9 curb appeal grants, 6 down payment assistance grants, 5 rental conversion grants. We spent about $56,000. Okay. Now, anybody that bought a house last year, maybe like Kyle or other people, you had some really pretty traditionally low interest rates, right? This program really took off last year. We wrote 61 grants, 20 the year before, 61 last year. Okay. So I had to go back to council and beg. Council really likes me, so they gave me more money. Okay. So we spent $190,000 in those housing, what we call the in-house housing grants. Okay. And we did 24 rental conversion grants. Okay. So it's 24 rental houses that are now owned by happy homeowners like Mr. Miller there, who's out planting flowers, mowing his lawn, cleaning his gutters, okay, watching out for his neighbors. We did 27 down payment assistance grants, 27 new homeowners, okay, 27 people that can realize that wealth of the equity of owning a home. And we did 10 curb appeal grants, okay. So it's a really successful program. Again, if you have any questions, call me. The person that is in charge of this is Ashley Gibson. She was a person that we stole from a local bank, and she's very good. She has a lot of financial background and a lot of, which obviously involves things like mortgages and things like that. So the other thing I'm going to talk about is the land/housing trust that you've been working on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it is very, very new, but I know that people want to know about it. I want people to know that it is progressing. Okay. Currently, the bylaws, the city attorney has been to the council twice with the bylaws. Okay. And they're still undergoing some massaging, I'll say it that way. Currently, we have an initial board of directors, which are 2 council people, and Ms. Gibson, she's the staff representative. Eventually, it will end up with a board of 3 to 7 directors. Okay. And the city basically is acting as what I call the host. Okay. The host is why? Because it's our money. Okay. So, you know, it's your money. You get to draw up the rules, basically. Okay. Which we perceive that will probably be the situation for a few years. Eventually, you never know. This thing may become sort of a perpetual motion machine. And I know we have a speaker from Habitat. I think here, a person from Habitat. That's kind of the way Habitat for Humanity operates. People buy stuff, they put money back in, their money goes to fund separate things or future things. And that's kind of the way we hope this community land trust, housing trust will go. So what is a community land trust, housing trust? And basically, the most traditional ones I see, and there's about 280 or something like that in the United States right now. So Carbondale could be kind of trend setting on this. But what they do traditionally is people would buy houses and then lease the land back from the land trust. And why? Well, you go a lot of places. Obviously, Carbondale is somewhat blessed in low property values, low land values, low housing or house and values as far as what it costs to buy a house, buy a piece of land. You go to a lot of places, it's, you know, crazy high land prices. Okay. So that's the way they set up our land trust. And I don't want to say that's the way this land trust is going to be. That's going to be up to the board of directors to formulate programs and carry this on there. But that's somewhat, you know, how most of them traditionally are run. It may be better in Carbondale to come up with, you know, the house and the land together, you know, controlled by the land trust. But again, that's up to the board. We hope also, I think Kyle mentioned TIF districts. We have 4 residential TIF districts now in Carbondale. So we hope that this, and with our other housing program, it spurs the people to become homeowners and regenerate our neighborhoods. With the TIF districts, one thing that we also did last year, which came out of my department, Mrs. Gibson wrote a set of architectural standards, which were kind of based on some historic preservation architectural standards that we had. So when people go into these neighborhoods and they take advantage of the TIF district money and things like that, then they're going to, or TIF district benefits, they're going to not just put up anything. There will be some measures to make sure that their house fits with the neighborhood, has certain things, doesn't tear off the front porch because they don't want to pay to redo the roof, things like that. And that's been a little bit of a problem, especially if you go around some of your older houses have been converted to rentals. You'll see where instead of putting back period posts, they just put up whatever cheap thing they could find at the lumberyard. So we're trying, not to get into that groove. Okay. I think that is most of my comments. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. My question deals with when you were giving out these grants for different people for different improvements or purchasing the home. Can you say if these grants were given in areas in all one particular section of Carbondale, or were they spread out all over the place?
They're fairly spread out, and a lot of them are in the Southwest. A lot of them are in the Northwest. We have a few in the Northeast, a few in the Southeast. That is not intentional, obviously. We would like to put more market into the program, but with the interest rates being so low, the program just blew up last year. We don't know, because interest rates now are higher, what it's going to do next year. We would like to continue to market more, and that's why we show up at meetings like this, because we want everybody to know about it. Believe it or not everybody knows about all the programs. They don't know that they can get free money from the city of Carbondale. They see their water bill and their tax bill, and usually that money's going the other way. Okay. So, we do try and do outreach. The Northwest and the Southwest, by the way, are the biggest areas though of your housing. That's where you have the most number of units at. And obviously the Southwest, I think if you were to, and somewhere we have a density map, if you look, the area that Kyle described as the Arbor District, for instance, has by far the greatest percentage of rental properties, okay, in it. And what's really neat about this program, again, I grew up 604 South James, okay? There are houses across the street from our old house that had not been owner occupied in decades. I'm talking like 30 or 40 years that are now owner occupied. Okay. That's significant. Okay. So I just can't say enough good things about the program.
Can all of the website information be found on the city's website? From Zoom?
I'm sorry. Okay, so just a quick primer on city website. Basically, if you Google explorecarbondale.com, you will come to the city website. Okay. You look at the city website, it's maroon for SIU, and it's got a big black search bar in the middle. And you scroll on down and you will see forms and applications on a number of toolbars there. Click on that forms and applications, go to development management and BNS. Okay, BNS, Building Neighborhood Services. Click on that, and then you will see those housing programs that I've just talked about. You will see the rules for them, and you'll also see the online application. Don't be afraid. Go ahead and put on an application. I will tell you right now that we run out of funding again, so we're kind of on hold. Okay, but back May 1st. Okay, I'm pretty assured we're going to get more money. Okay, but don't be afraid to put in your application and then talk to Ashley or myself about, if certain things are not in place. Okay. Yes.
Quick question.
Okay.
No, I was just stretching actually. But I did think of a quick question.
Yeah.
Does the amount of funding you could potentially get for the programs in May depend potentially on the number of applicants that you have?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. we tat our program a lot. We had to go back and obviously present information about our program to get more money. And so I think that the council has always been quite supportive of that, you know. And I'll thank the council members that are here for supporting us. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to talk quickly about Irma Hayes. Bob Wills, Robert Wills, who is the director, is ill. And so he is a good friend of mine, and I'm a past board member, Irma Hayes. So he asked me if nobody else showed up to say a few words about Irma Hayes. So Irma Hayes, for those of you who don't know, was at one time a city facility that was turned over to non-for-profit organization for various reasons. And it's quite frankly floundered for several years. It's a pretty big facility. And like with any facilities, I've been a facilities manager, didn't like it. In fact, that was my last job before I came to the city of Carbondale. It's a tough job. And Irma Hayes is, although it's not an ancient building, it's a rather, you know, it was built in the 70s. It has some issues. It wasn't, I don't know. I won't elaborate about that, but there were a lot of issues with HVAC and stuff like that. The city, out of our ARPA funds, gave Irma Hayes, I think about $550,000, $600,000 to redo the HVAC system. Says, wow, that sounds like a lot for an air conditioner. Well, if you go to the Irma Hayes building, it's a big building, and commercial heating and HVAC is a totally different animal than your run-of-the-mill residential thing. And it was pivotal to the comfort and the use of the building, because a lot of the people back before this was done, they were, not happy with the environment, the climate of the building. If you'd ever been in the building, it could be pretty cold, and they were struggling even then to pay the power bill. So the equipment that was put in was a lot more energy efficient. And obviously, they should be set now for 20, 25 years with no problem. I can't say enough good things about Robert Wills, Bob Wills, as I call him. He has just done a tremendous job. He has put together a new board. He is a very organized person, very motivational person. He should really probably be a motivational speaker somewhere. In addition to the ARPA money that the city has given Irma Hayes, we've also done some in-kind stuff. I've actually back quite a while ago now, when my crew in building neighborhood services was quarantined out of City Hall, they said, well, you're supposed to work from your car that day. Well, that's okay. That's a little bit hard though, when you're a manager, work from your car. So I told all the guys, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be over at Irma Hayes tomorrow with some shovels, rakes, and my pickup truck, because they got a bunch of brush and leaves and junk in the parking lot. And every one of my guys showed up there. Now you got to love a crew like that. I had to buy them all pizza, but you got to love a crew like that. So in-kind stuff like that, the city's done a lot. We provided a lot of trash removal services and stuff like that. So that's good. So as a result of the, getting the center fixed up, dressed up, better HVAC in there, they've been able to attract more tenants. Tri-county education is the biggest one. Why is that important? Because when you have paying tenants, then you're able to go ahead and maintain your building. Senator Tammy Duckworth's office has also been there. I actually was instrumental when I was on the board of doing that, including going in there and swinging a hammer on some stuff. Okay. So she's been a very good tenant. And other politicians with offices, services offices, there may be another area for growth. And so there's a handout here. If you look, there's quite a few other things there. One of the very successful ones I visited myself was the Women for Change Sewing Center. So that was pretty cool. So it's a neat place. I think if you stop by and walk through and talk to Bob, I think you'll be very impressed with what has been done in about the past year and a half. Any questions on that? You got a question, Elias? You're gonna bring your microphone. Guys like Elias and me that work construction a lot of years are just used to yelling across a room.
Mayor Brad Cole sold that building to a friend of mine in 2010 for $10. Anyway, the city approved $450,000 to approve the HR. 450,000. He said 550 to improve the HVAC system at the Irma Hayes Center. And the report that was filed by the consultant says $450,000 was given to replace the roof on the Irma Hayes Center. 2 weeks ago, it was raining real bad. I went to the Irma Hayes Center, haven't been there in 6 months. Went there, look for Tammy Duckworth. But I walked inside the building, got a big trash can of the roof. So they spent all that money inside and still got a big hole in the roof over there.
I wasn't aware there were any roof problems, but there was about 550,000 from the city, but there was also another, if I'm not mistaken, about 150,000 from Jackson County also went to that thing. The other major modification I should add too is there's a kitchen in the multipurpose room there on the west end of the multipurpose room, and that needed some upgrades and some, actually, quite frankly, some safety changes to comply with code so that it could be really used as a real cooking kitchen. And so that was another quite big money item.
Okay. I think I mentioned earlier how proud I was of the Irma Hayes Center. But despite any comments or any mental images you might have of the Irma Hayes Center, I think you really owe it to yourself, if you care about it, to go inside and look. And I remember when it was brand new, and it has never looked better. There are certain partnerships with the university. The sewing center is actually named after a couple of very good friends of mine. And I'm telling you, aside from when it was brand spanking new, and I was a teenager then, it has never looked better. Okay, we have Laura. Let's da 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 da. Laura, come on. Lauren.
So we've all been sitting for a little while. And so I want to, just as I'm getting set up, provide some space and time. If anybody wants to stand up, stretch your shoulders, roll your neck around, feel free to, because it can be hard to sit for a long while. And it can be hard for us to be talking about some of these heavy topics. Yeah, of course. Yeah, my knees, especially if they're bent for too long. Okay. Bear with me, just making sure things don't slide around. Okay, we're gonna get started. I timed myself, Sarah. It's 10 minutes flat if I get clicking along, so bear with me. So good morning, neighbors. My name is Lauren Becker. In May of 2022, I was recruited by the city of Carbondale to serve as a dual role planner and sustainability coordinator for our community. As a result, my partner and I have become Carbonites, and we are so thankful that we did. Today, I will be giving you a sneak peek into the presentation that our City Council will receive on February 14th, my first report of progress regarding the sustainability of the City of Carbondale. To all those who are here today and listening online, Zoom folks, I hope that you leave this presentation understanding that Carbondale, Illinois is positioned, determined, and prepared to address this challenge head on. And you are an essential piece to our success. First, I need to provide a little bit of insight into what the word sustainability means. This word, which is being used more and more frequently as a buzzword, represents the intersection, the overlap of three different areas: community well-being, economic prosperity, and ecosystem health. This concept is not a new one. Sustainability is the recognition that the prosperity of our communities is not at odds with the ecosystem which we depend on. It's actually intimately reliant upon it. Done right, using a sustainability lens to look at the world is fiscally responsible, forward thinking, and leads to a positive feedback loop in our communities. Here's a visual of our timeline. In February 2019, through listening sessions, consultations with local action and community stakeholders, and revision by subject matter experts, members of the Sustainability Commission began drafting the first City of Carbondale Sustainability Action Plan, the SAP. This constituent written document is visionary, bold, and audacious, adamantly communicating the future that our community desires. In April of 2022, the City Council, some of which members are here with us today, passed the City of Carbondale Sustainability Action Plan, setting in motion a chain of events. One such being the hiring of staff dedicated to its implementation. One of my core responsibilities is developing a science-based targets roadmap to accompany the vision outlined by our SAP, which will allow for the transformation of this audacious and visionary plan into a living, breathing implementation strategy. In order to accomplish this goal, I launched and am near completion of our first community-scale greenhouse gas emissions and equivalent inventory according to the US Community Protocol. As a dual role planner and sustainability coordinator, my time is split 50-50 between planning and sustainability coordination, which is optimal at this point in implementation. The work of sustainability professionals can be broken down into two categories: mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation is the act of stopping the release of greenhouse gas and equivalent emissions into our atmosphere. Adaptation is the act of recognizing what effects are already being felt and will continue to be felt by our community, regardless of the immediacy of the mitigation actions we take, and preparing for them. We need action in both categories. In simple terms, they can be described as stopping the harm and treating the harm that's already occurred while simultaneously bracing ourselves to be prepared for what comes next. Up on the slides here, I have a few examples that span energy, transportation, waste, culture building, risk management, and master planning. For example, we can mitigate climate changes through taking advantages of the energy efficiency resource we have in urban design. Another example, we can adapt to climate changes by preserving and encouraging urban tree canopy, critical infrastructure to combat the urban heat island effect. These are just a few. Upon the completion of our community scale inventory, I will begin forecasting what actions will have the highest rate of return when factoring the triple bottom line and proposing actions based on fiscal responsibility, community well-being, and ecosystem health. This is directly in line with the criteria for assessing city and community priorities as outlined in the Sustainability Action Plan. Critical to this work is understanding that it cannot be accomplished in a silo. Mitigation and adaptation planning cannot be sectioned off from any other department. It is inherently interdepartmental and it is inherently intersectional. In order to implement the vision outlined by the action plan, the City of Carbondale and the community of Carbondale have access to 5 tools that I've outlined. 1, our ability to create partnerships. Collective prosperity and resiliency starts with partnerships and relationship. These partnerships can involve mutually beneficial capital projects, educational programming opportunities, and strategic planning. Number 2, access to incentives. We are experiencing a once in a lifetime, once in a generation investment by the federal government in the just clean energy transition. And all eyes are on the state of Illinois as we roll out the implementation of the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, CEJA, which recently turned 1 year old. Pairing state incentives with the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the work of the Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities Economic Revitalization allows us to position and prepare ourselves to seek and secure funding. In turn, our city will be able to develop and offer incentives of our own to the wider community. 3, our rich community culture. All right, so far, what I've noticed is that community culture is something we Carbonites have in spades. We have a rich history of involvement, of advocacy, of autonomy, and dedication to supporting our community. We have something special here. Last but not least is the opportunity to strengthen federal, state, and local code. Code is one of the most powerful tools we have in mitigating and adapting to our changing climate. But what is code? A brief crash course. City code equals all the applicable laws, regulations, and ordinances of a city, otherwise known as the rules. These rules fall into different categories like zoning code, building code, fire code, and more. They're determined and required and enforced at different levels of government. Some code is federal, some code is state, and some code is local. Some code supersedes the code of the level of government below it. Put simply, city code is a compilation of the rules that govern all aspects of city operations. As a note, communities that are locally represented through a city council, for example, get to design the parts of their city code that aren't otherwise required at the state or federal level. This is where the levers come into play. In every system, there are levers that can be pulled and pushed to enact meaningful, lasting prosperity. These levers are embedded in a network of people who are acting through personal and professional roles. One such lever is our role as involved and vocal community members. Another lever is the role of those in elected leadership. And yet another lever is the role of staff members. When I plotted the implementation of the Sustainability Action Plan on a Venn diagram of action, this is what I get. Our elected representatives are at the intersection and are the touchstone of this work. I'm so sorry. It looks like my slides have gotten a bit jumbled.
I apologize. I put
no.
them all together and I think I didn't have time to adjust it.
It's so fine. I'll make sure that a copy of the slides are provided to folks after the presentation. I've been using the phrase, the plan in motion, to describe the work that happens now, the implementation of this living, breathing vision. The plan in motion will span the 4 focus areas of the Sustainability Action Plan and beyond, including energy, nature-based solutions, people, process, biodiversity, water and wastewater, risk and hazards, and public well-being. This work is not limited to carbon reductionist thinking, but is rooted and centered in the intersection of ecological health, public well-being, and resilient prosperity in systems. This work causes me to ask questions like, what would child-friendly design of this street look like? And where are our food deserts? As well as questions like, what do our local net zero builders need to thrive and grow? The beginning of this work involves reigniting our culture and building up interdepartmental collaboration. And the good news is, many of the initiatives that we are approaching fall into 2 categories or more, which means that there are co-benefits to their implementation. That's the nature of sustainability work. Now for the great news. We've already begun. The foundation for this work has been established, and we are rowing in the same direction. The city of Carbondale, as an example, has been a member of Tree City USA for over 41 years, protecting and enhancing our urban tree canopy. We've already joined ICLEI USA, an internationally recognized and chaptered organization for local governments. We're near completion of our first community scale greenhouse gas emissions and equivalent inventory. And in the past 8 months, I've been getting to know our levers. And as a result, I've begun collaborating with local partners, including SIU, Jackson County, the University of Illinois Extension, local businesses, local not-for-profits, state not-for-profits, and Midwestern planning entities. We hosted, as another example, the first Illinois solar tour in Carbondale this past September, a statewide solar tour with a special event and a bus just for us, a culture building event that many of you who are here today attended. And as icing on the cake, we were even recognized on the international stage of COP15 this past December during a session on ICLEI's Cities with Nature. To have your city, your community, recognized at the United Nations Conference on Biodiversity, that's pretty incredible to me. Achieving a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable Carbondale is not only in reach for us, but central to our culture as Carbonites. And it starts with relationships, just like the ones that we're fostering today. Thank you.
We have a comment from
There's 3
Zoom.
minutes for questions.
We have a comment from Zoom. It says, a couple of years ago, I sent a bunch of information to City Council about the idea of Carbondale becoming a dark sky city. Light pollution is detrimental to all sorts of animals and ecosystems, and it has a website. I'd love to see this incorporated into the sustainability plan.
I could even repeat it. We had a comment from Zoom. A community member was sharing that they had sent a couple years ago some materials to the city council regarding dark skies. Given that I'm only 9 months in, I'm not privy to that. But I want to say to you who provided this comment, pun intended, the sky is the limit. If we want to see that happen, it just takes that communication coming to our elected representatives, and then they tell me, okay, this is what the community would like to see. So this is the appropriate channel for communicating that. You're also welcome to send, if you could, those same materials to my email. Would love to get in touch. Thank you.
Is there any plan to ever have public transportation from Carbondale to St. Louis, either the airport or the train station or the light rail? Because as it is now, and I when I wanted to travel, had to taxi to Marion and then fly Cape Air to St. Louis, which is quite a carbon footprint.
Great question. The simplest answer I can provide is if I have my way, there will be, but I don't always get my way. So we'll see.
Can I just comment on that as well? There was a League of Women Voters presentation this past week that's on the library's YouTube channel all about transportation. So you might want to check that out.
If I'm remembering correctly, that was Jackson County Mass Transit. We have had some conversations. They're doing some pretty cool things. And if we can help them assure funding, we would love to see things like trolleys and electric forms of transportation. It's about pulling those levers and figuring out how can we get funding to the right place.
Right. Yes. And they were talking a bit about the St. Louis issue. So.
Here, hang on. Jane and then Lee, questions?
Lauren,
I don't have.
thank you very much.
I don't have a question, but mainly just to say that the action plan is on the website. For those who aren't familiar with it, to look at it, there's extensive, and if you have suggestions to add, I'm on the Sustainability Commission, so we're certainly interested in having more feedback on that plan.
And if I could invite Jane Kogi to stand up. Jane is one of our drafting authors, and I would like to give a round of applause to those who are responsible for drafting the Sustainability Action Plan. Thank you, Jane.
Lauren, if you can just stand there just for a second. You've answered a very important question that we've had in Carbondale, and it relates to this and that, like Pepsi and Coke, soda and pop. So the question was Carbondalians are Carbonites. So I'm a Carbonite.
I have to apologize. I went back and forth and I was like, well, I'm transitioning from Wisconsinite to a Carbonite. It's a little bit softer of a landing for me. But Carbondalians, I see you. We unite.
I'm a Carbonite. It was a negative connotation, but she made it sound so positive that now I'm a Carbonite.
I had just heard this morning there's supposed to be a bus service started from here to Lambert. Has anybody heard of that? Like 3 days a week bus service to Lambert Field?
Well, that sounds promising. I haven't heard it, but I try to keep up on everything. I'm not on any commissions anymore. Okay, we're going to be expeditious. Our final presenter would be from the Greater Egypt Planting. That's Kelsey Bowie. Bo? Okay, no E. Okay. You say potatoes, I say potatoes, you say
Okay, I'll actually go first. I'm Tyler Carpenter. I'm the GIS and Environmental Planning Director with the Greater Egypt Planning Commission. Thanks. I'll just go ahead and kind of introduce Greater Egypt. If you're not familiar with what we do, we're a multi-level planning commission that serves 5 counties. So Jackson, Williamson, Franklin, Perry, and Jefferson counties. We deal a lot with different kind of planning initiatives. As I said, we have a standalone transportation planning agency called Southern Illinois MPO. We deal a lot with hazard mitigation in our department. So a lot of what we've heard about today, community planning for preparedness, things like that, and also economic development. But today we're actually going to speak about some of our water quality initiatives through the 604B Water Quality Management Planning of the Clean Water Act. So Greater Egypt, we get funds through the Illinois EPA. Illinois EPA, can you hear me? Okay. And that is the 604B Water Quality Management Planning grants that we get. So completely paid for by the Illinois EPA through taxpayer funds. So again, today I just wanted to talk about 2 of the planning initiatives we have now, dealing mostly with water.
Sorry, Tyler, I hate to interrupt you. I'm
Sure.
over here. Could you hold the microphone a bit higher? I think you're
Sure.
covering the signal.
Oh, I see.
There you go.
You
Thank you
got
so
me.
much.
Okay. All right. So we've gone over everything. So our first pilot project is this agricultural best management pilot study. So again, a lot of what we do within our jurisdictions is deal with U.S. citizens of municipalities. However, another thing we look at is something that, we deal with a lot down here is the agricultural community. So another thing that we deal with for water quality is what we call the non-point sources. So these are things like in urban settings, for instance, stormwater runoff, or in an agricultural setting, agricultural runoff. This might include pesticides or fertilizer use. So one of the things we're doing with this study is actually utilizing our UAS or our drone that the EPA previously paid for through another grant that we had. So what we're going to do with this drone is look at the effectiveness of best management practices in Southern Illinois. So as you see here, some of the BMPs that we say, best management practices that we're looking at are grassed waterways, filter strips. If you've been along, Route 127 or familiar with farming down here, you probably have seen some of these even from the road. Something that you may be more familiar with, cover crops. We're hoping that a lot of the farmers down here are implementing something like that, or other kind of conservation practices like conservation tillage. So one of the things we're going to do with this program is take our drone up, we're trying to find about 6 to 8 volunteers, which is one of the reasons we're here today, is try to find volunteers. And I don't know how many of you that live in Carbondale are farmers, but maybe you have some friends that could, volunteer for this. We're looking at about 6 to 8 different farmers, roughly with farms, above 50 acres. We're looking at areas that could really be impacted by the implementation of these best management practices. So one of the things we're going to do with the drone is go up, clearly take our aerial photography, but also get different data sets. So we're going to look at vegetation indices, different multispectral data sets that we're going to get from the drone. We're also going to take water samples on the ground to see if there are a limit in nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, to see if these best management practices are actually doing what they're supposed to. So we're going to compare that with farms that don't utilize that. So unfortunately, there are a lot of those areas down here. One of the things we're hoping to do with this is bring farmers together as a group. Maybe they don't know the benefits of some of these, or maybe we're going to try to find out some of the hurdles. One of the things we have found out, through dealing with a lot of the agricultural community, we don't really mention the EPA's name because it scares a lot of people off, especially in agricultural settings. So I found out we just say we work with the state now, which kind of helps a lot of the things. So our study area for this, as I said, we work in 5 counties predominantly, but this is for Jackson and Williamson counties. So again, if you know any farmers in the area, please tell them to contact us. And I'm going to give this to Kelsey because she's going to talk about another one of our pilot studies. Thanks.
Hi, Kelsey Bowe, environmental planner with Greater Egypt. We are running short on time, so I'm going to try and go through this really fast. So with this same funding through the agricultural project, we're also going to do a study in the city of Carbondale. We would we are going to try and measure the urban heat island effect within the city using, again, our drone and also some satellite data from NASA that we are able to pull. And we are here today because we want community input on this. We want to know where are the areas hottest and what can be done about it. And we have some interest forms available to community groups who are here today if they would like to see us after. And information is also on our website, and we will have a public meeting either March or April coming up. So look out for that. Also, real quick, our transportation department is not here today, but I'm speaking on Mike Z's behalf. We are also conducting an East Grand Avenue multimodal study in conjunction with the city and Oates Associates, an engineering firm in the area. And we would like to evaluate this stretch of road for pedestrians and all other users. And we have a public survey available through that link. And we also have some flyers that we're going to post around today. And the link is also on our website. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Well, I've been standing and moving around, so I know your booty ought to be hurting right now. There's one thing I like to point out. Over at the Civic Center, the Southern Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce is holding an event today. And they've got a lot of stuff happening over there. There'll be free headshots. And I don't know the last time you had a headshot, but I was getting my driver's license. So I'm prepared for my headshot today. So before I change clothes, I'll be going over to the Civic Center, get my free headshot and maybe spend $2. I'm so glad we had this time together just to share a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say.
We are doing also a candidate introduction. Yeah, okay. I'm not prepared to introduce the candidates. Okay, if you are a candidate, you want to.
Who do we see? Carolyn Harvey running for mayor. I don't see Harold, who's running against her. Claire Kilman, Justin Zerlinden, Lee Frauenberger, Nancy Maxwell. Who else did we see? Tom Grant, Adam Lose. Okay. All right. And then that'll. There you go. Sorry. And then we'll close. That's it. Did I miss everybody? No, that's everyone who's on the. Okay. And everybody who's here. Yeah. Well, no, there's other people running. Harold, well, I mean, look here, people are afraid to lie. Joshua said he'd come. Joshua's not here. Harold said he'd come. Harold's not here.
Let's get a good.
Somebody turn it off. If you could just step up here to the podium for a second, I'll hold the mic for you and just say who you are and what you're running for. Okay.
Hello, my name is Tom Grant. I am currently serving as a council member and I'm running again for another term.
Thank you. Lee?
I'm Lee Frauenberger. I'm up for re-election as city councilman. I have served for 10 years and hope to continue. Thank you.
Claire?
I'm Claire Kilman and I'm running for city council.
Nancy?
I'm Nancy Maxwell and I'm running for city council.
You go, Adam.
I'm Adam Lose. I'm running for re-election to city council.
Justin
I'm Justin Zerland and I'm running for city council.
and Carolyn.
Good morning. My name's Carolyn Harvey and I'm running for mayor of the city of Carbondale. I can't say I asked you to vote for me, so I didn't say that.
She is currently serving as interim mayor.